Hey, welcome. Today we're going to talk about single point of failures, specifically with regards to the continuous delivery pipeline. So when you design a pipeline, how to avoid or how to be aware of single point of failures. Hi, my name is Anto and this is Out of DevOps, a YouTube channel where I talk about continuous delivery and software engineering. If you are interested, consider subscribing and don't forget to press the like button. So, what is a single point of failure? In an entire system, when a single component may affect the entirety of the system, of the functionality of the system, that is considered to be a single point of failure. For example, if to work I need my machine and I don't have my machine, that's a single point of failure. So if I have two machines, I have redundancy, so I can still operate. This concept can be applied pretty much to anything, but when we look at our continuous delivery pipeline, we have all these steps in our pipeline that each one of them relies on different components. For example, we may rely on GitHub for code, or we may rely on GitHub Actions for building our code or for deploying our code. We may rely on many other things like Artifactory or Docker or our cloud provider. So you can go crazy with these things because you can say, okay, I don't want to be down when Google is down, so you go multi-cloud. Obviously, all these things will add extreme complexity to your design. But what I want to suggest today is something that happened to me. So for example, we were relying on a community managed product that is HashiCorp Vault. And instead of having a local copy, we were directly using the image from Docker Hub. And what happened one day is that Docker was down. So we weren't able to spin up an essential component of our infrastructure that was HashiCorp Vault. And that made us realize that we made a mistake in designing our systems. So and HashiCorp Vault for us was crucial, was at the center of everything because we were sharing the credentials. If you remember, I recently made a video about what is the first thing to do in continuous delivery. The link is up here. Actually, is up here. So, and with this consideration, we realized that it's important every single time you design your continuous delivery pipelines, your system, your deployment mechanism, and everything else, to make sure you have a second option if it's necessary. For example, if you have GCP as your cloud provider and the system that you use to deploy is also based on GCP, for example, I don't know, you're using a vendor that builds their infrastructure on GCP. If you depend on them for deploying in a critical situation, for example, when a region of GCP is down, if they are running your account in the same region, you may end up in a situation where you are not able to recover because your deployment system also lives in the affected region, so you don't have a way to deploy. So having a manual mechanism or an override mechanism that can help you deploying things in a different way or a second way of doing things is always good. So the same thing may happen with GitHub. So if you rely on GitHub for build and not for runtime, then you have an advantage, because if GitHub is down, you don't need GitHub for your runtime systems. So you can still survive to a downtime of GitHub. Sometimes you see that Git is directly used by production components. So in that way, you are creating a dependency that is not just at build time, but also runtime. So all this consideration, unfortunately, I learned them the hard way because even with GitHub, we had a similar issue. So consider where you put your configuration, consider which component you use in your continuous delivery pipeline, because they can all have an impact on the way you run the application. So my rule of thumb is that I try to separate the build components from the runtime components and try to have the runtime components some sort of redundancy. So try to not rely 100% on a mechanism that is built in with your deployment system, always have a second option to deploy or to fetch your artifacts. For example, you may have Artifactory is another good example. Sometimes we had Artifactory down, we weren't able to deploy anything because all our artifacts were living in Artifactory. So having a backup, having a mirror that can use GCR for Docker images, for example, can save you a day, because you just have to switch registry and you also have access to your Docker containers. So I don't know what you think. Let me know down in the comments. This was a short video, and see you soon in the next one. Bye bye.